The Ghost Who Threw Stones. A true story. A nightmare began for Mr. and Mrs. Berkbigler and their 5 young children in early September 1983. They had just moved into their new home, which was large but empty and only partially completed, when large stones began to hit the building every night. The stones seemed to have come from nowhere, and even the police could not find the person responsible for it. In short, the Berkbiglers were the victims of a stone-throwing poltergeist, a particularly harassing type of spectre that likes to pelter houses with stones. Whenever the family went out to try to surprise the stalker, they found no one. The attacks usually began between 5:30 p.m. and 7 p.m., when the Berkbiglers would return, some from work and some from school. The stones would come in short bursts and then stop, only to start again. Sometimes the Berkbiglers would also hear mysterious banging at the doors and windows. At first, they thought it might be the speed of some vagrant, but Mrs. Berkbigler also had another suspicion. It could also be the fault of a spirit, she finally told reporters from the Arizona Daily Star. Maybe we built our house on a sacred burial ground or something. Soon, the local press labeled the Berkbigler problem as that of the stone-throwing ghost. In the weeks that followed, the local sheriff inspected the house and called for a helicopter and surveillance to solve the mystery. The investigators ended up being stone-pelted in turn, even in broad daylight, and became reluctant to visit the property. The most frightening episode occurred on December 4th, a Sunday. Stones had been heard sporadically throughout the day, and 2 reporters from the Star visited the house to interview family members. At 6:10 p.m., stones were thrown at the back door of the house with such fury that the reporters were unable to leave. The siege lasted 2 hours, until finally the Berkbiglers telephoned the police, with whose escort the reporters were able to leave the premises. The strangest thing was that, in order to hit the back door, the stones had to go through the open garage of the house. Given that a van was parked there that evening, the stones could only be thrown with incredible precision through a narrow 60-centimeter gap between the garage ceiling and the roof of the van. Yet the ghost had executed those very precise throws with great ease. The phenomenon reached its peak on December 6th and 7th, when a number of people began to show up at the house to help the family surprise the perpetrator of these rogues. Despite the continuous patrolling of the property, the stones flew as usual, hitting people with astounding precision in that pitch-black desert. The improvised vigilantes managed to chase an intruder off the property who turned out to belong to the sheriff's office. Then, simply, the stone-throwing ceased altogether. The daily sieges ended after the second night of the search, and the case of the mysterious Tucson stone thrower was left unsolved. And such it remains to this day.